I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the shocking killing of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins in his own chambers by the sheriff, Mickey Stines. A shooting caught 100% on video. Here's the story. On September 19th, 2024, in the hushed atmosphere of Kentucky's Letcher County Courthouse, Sheriff Mickey Stines transformed from respected lawman to infamous killer. Calmly entering Judge Kevin Mullins' chambers, Stines unleashed a barrage of shots, fatally striking the jurist at point-blank range. Surveillance footage shows a chilling calm before the storm, Stines ushering others out, closing the door, then executing his friend. In the aftermath, body cam footage captured Stines trembling and begging officers, quote, "Don't kill me, be fair to me." His defense team responded swiftly, filing motions to dismiss the indictment, alleging grand jury secrecy violations and announcing plans for an insanity plea, citing extreme emotional disturbance and a recent harrowing deposition in a courthouse sexual abuse lawsuit. Now jailed without bond, Stines' trial will hinge on whether his actions were a calculated act of murder or the result of a fractured mind pushed beyond its limits. It's always been about the why in this case because everything's been captured on video, including the alleged crime itself, which is the shooting of Judge Kevin Mullins by the sheriff. It lasts like 29 seconds. I'm going to show it to you in just a second. I'm going to warn you ahead of time, but we do stop the video at the moments when the gun is fired. So you won't see that and you won't see the aftermath of it. But let's take a look one more time because of what had been happening in that courthouse, there's a camera in the judge's chambers. Now, there was no audio for this video that was released, and there's just no microphones. It's a simple surveillance camera, but you can see the judge ducking and trying desperately to get out of harm's way. And the sheriff continues to pursue him. You see the sheriff there, the judge moving the desk. And then just before he's about to leave, more shots fired by the sheriff. And perhaps if he had just left at that moment, maybe Judge Mullins would have survived. Now, when this video was released, we had some questions because there was no audio, so you couldn't hear, what was being said in the moment. And we also didn't know about the lead up to this. And now we've got new video. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. And it's about the new video. What happened in the 13 minutes before the shooting? To me, these are the critical 13 minutes. Again, it's video without audio. Here to help us go through all this and answer the question, Elizabeth Jones, host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, has been covering this story in depth. And also, we're getting help tonight from behavioral and social scientist, Dr. Abby Morono. Dr. Morono, thank you so much for being here as well. So this is the way I want to do this. Because there is no audio, we are just going to press play in a second, show the video, and we're going to watch it together, the three of us and the folks at home, and make any observations. If I'm talking and you see something, just jump in with it, please. So without further ado, let's put it in. This is the 13 minutes beforehand. So Elizabeth, as we begin here, at this moment of time, this is after lunch when all this is happening, and the first thing we see when the sheriff comes in is that he's clearing everyone out of the room.
Yeah, he does. They said that he's kind of acting aggressive when he says that he needs to talk to the judge alone.
Dr. Morono, do you see anything from the body language, the way the sheriff got the other folks out of the room, the way he's posturing himself in his chair?
Well, there's a couple things. Well, first, he's calm and composed. His body posture is open and expansive. He's taking up a lot of space. He doesn't show any self-soothing behaviors like rubbing his hands or fidgeting, which are commonly seen when someone is experiencing heightened tension. Now, when I originally saw this video, I did have a look at his posture and his seating position and say, okay, that's possibly a dominance display. But reviewing some of the other footage, it looks like he commonly sits like that. So I think that's his baseline. But what's more interesting to me is actually what I'm not seeing. So they're pushing for the insanity defense, but there are certain behaviors that you would expect to see if someone is in a state of, here we can say, paranoia. And one of the main things you would expect to see is hypervigilance. So excessive scanning of the environment, frequent checking behind them, standing with the back to the wall, those kind of guarding movements. Now, when he shooed everyone out of the room, if you watch the way he allows everyone to move around him, he's letting people walk behind him, to the side of him, and he's not showing any cues of discomfort. This isn't expected from someone in a state of paranoia. There's also no erratic or avoidant body language. There's no changes in direction. He's very calm. He's got neutral affect. He's got neutral gait. He seems very goal-directed. You know, he's moving efficiently. He clearly retrieves his weapon later on, too. So the body language that I'm seeing here isn't necessarily consistent with what I would expect to see for someone in going for an insanity defense.
Fascinating. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, as we watch the judge, oh, wait, he's getting up right now. Let's see what happens here.
Well,
this is an interesting moment. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Everything that she just said just now, or your other guest, he does those things, but he just wasn't doing it when she was talking about it. We see him go from the front door there to the back, and he checks both of those doors to see if there's anybody out there listening to their conversation, I think is why he's doing that. And we see him start rubbing his hands. So everything she said.
But those aren't guarding displays. Those aren't necessarily guarding displays. They're checking displays. A guarding display is when other people are present. And when other people are present, typically that's when people are the most defensive. And that's what I'm not seeing.
What'd you think, Doctor, of him going to the door, opening it, taking a peek out, and then sitting back down?
Often when we have a pre-violence check, so when someone is about to commit a violent act, you see these moments of kind of cognitive overload and a decision moment. And to me, those are checking moments. So he has a plan in mind potentially, and then you check whether is this the time to move forward with my plans. That can be a checking moment. Now, like I said, there are behaviors that I would expect to see that I'm just not seeing. The rubbing of the hands, now, I don't necessarily think that's a self-soothing because I'm not seeing other clusters of behaviors. So just seeing one behavior doesn't mean that it's necessarily a self-soothing display. It could just be a baseline. It could just be a comfort display. It's looking for clusters and looking for sequences. So what I would expect to see is one self-soothing behavior translate into another, or increase in intensity. And I'm not seeing those behaviors. Now, this doesn't mean that he isn't suffering from paranoia or is in a state of insanity. It just means that it's not typically what I would expect. The nonverbal signs of hypervigilance and guardedness are not present. And again, that guardedness is different to the checking behaviors.
Now, the other thing is the conversation is continuing throughout all of this, Elizabeth, because we can see the judge speaking. The judge still, at this moment, looks relatively composed and calm. He's got his cigarette, he's got his coffee, and he's continuing to talk. Obviously, it would be fascinating to understand what they are exactly talking about in those moments. But the bottom line, at this point, everything still seems relatively calm.
Well, something that I kind of noticed here is that Mickey, whenever we hear all of his paranoid talk, like after the shooting takes place, it made me wonder how much of that he was doing before the shooting happened. So one of the things that we hear the witnesses say, all of them said the same thing, that he just acted odd.
Yeah, well,
that,
he just got up. He just got up. He's disappeared out of the sight of the camera. I've never been in there. Do you know what is in the area where he is now? Elizabeth, are you familiar?
Yeah.
What's back there?
I am. So that's an office. That's the front of the office. When you go into the courthouse, you turn down a hallway and you go into the office. So that would be where his secretary would sit.
Okay.
And then there's a door there to the right, and that's the one that Mickey just went to. So he has went to that, that door, and then he goes to this back one, and then the smoking room is right back on the back side of this judge's chambers. It's there's 3 rooms just back to back to back.
Okay, but although they do smoke in the chambers also, and we've seen folks smoking, so
Yep.
I guess that's an additional smoking room. Doctor, what did you think of that little moment when he went to the back and then went back to the front and kept that door open for a little bit?
Well, it's difficult to say without seeing what he was doing. But it looked like there was a conversation happening when he was opening the door. So it's possible he was talking about moving locations. But the judge didn't seem to be responsive. He didn't seem to be fazed. So my guess would be that the conversation was very calm. There didn't seem to be any aggression. And here what's interesting is we have what's called excitation transfer and emotional contagion, where if one person starts to become aggressive, you can see it in the reflection of the other person's behavior. And here you just don't see any defense really in the judge.
He's leaning in for the first time now, though. He's leaning in on the desk. It looks like the nature of the conversation is changing as he physically gets closer to the judge here.
Yeah, usually we lean in with more positive, but it looks like here there is an increase in intensity because you can see the judge looks a little bit tense for the first time. This is the first time you're kind of seeing him less calm, but he quickly retreats, and there doesn't seem to be a large increase of emotional intensity, so it still looks relatively calm.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. And it looks like the sheriff has just picked up his phone.
Well, one of the things that I was going to mention was at the very beginning of this video here, when he comes in with the preacher man, it looked to me like there was some tension between Mickey, the sheriff, and the preacher man who he came in with. And it also looked to me like Judge Mullins was kind of smirking a little bit. And that was kind of what I meant earlier when I said, I wonder if Mickey was talking this way earlier in the day, because it seemed to me like they were just kind of rolling their eyes at him, and it just made me wonder if Mickey came in there talking kind of crazy talking, paranoid, and everybody was just kind of rolling their eyes like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in the video right now, it seemed like he was making some sort of a call, put the phone back down. He's picking the phone up again and appears to be perhaps trying to make another call at this moment. And I mean, he's making the call in front of the judge. The judge doesn't, again, seem concerned at all about the call. But we're getting very, very close now to the moment that he's going to shoot and kill the judge, and he's making calls. To me, that's by itself is fascinating, Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to point out, too, before it happens, because I'd love to get the doctor's response to it, is he stands up and he grabs his firearm, and then the judge goes to stand up, and Mickey points back down at the chair, and you can base it, like in my head, I hear him saying, sit back down, and the judge puts his hands up, and he immediately sits right back down.
Yeah, right now with the phone situation, there is definitely something happening right now. And at this point, Doctor, this is a fascinating part. He has now asked for the judge's phone to make a call. And our understanding is that he's calling his daughter. And again, this is just moments before he's about to shoot and kill the judge.
He gets an unexpected call here, too.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, again, I'm not really seeing many pre-violence indicators, which would be as expected. And it all seems very cohesive, very cooperative. He hands him his possession, which, again, is very cooperative. We also have to remember that there is already a lot of tension in this workplace because of the circumstances recently with the other cases. So there is likely to already be some tension, which could explain why there was tension when he walked in. But here, there doesn't seem to be any indication that something's going to happen. But what I did find interesting, Elizabeth, you said about when he put his hands up naturally and then...
oh, here we go. Here we go. What are you seeing here, Doctor?
This is it, Doctor, right here.
We see here he's put his hands up in defense prior to the weapon being in view. So I think that there was some conversation that turned negative. And you can see what's interesting is the judge's natural response was, although his hands were up, he's in a defensive state. So he actually goes almost into fight mode rather than flight mode. He doesn't duck down. He doesn't get smaller. His hands go up to say, you know, I'm not being a threat, but he doesn't seem to make himself any smaller.
And this is, we are extremely close to the moment, and we've reached the end of the 13 minutes prior to the shooting. The shooting takes place right there. Dr. Abby Morono, thank you so much. Your insight is absolutely amazing. We love having you on the show. We'll see you again really soon. Elizabeth Jones is going to stick around. Coming up next, when he picked up his phone, who was he talking to?
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins this August on Court TV.
Mickey Stines, like what do you normally say? You just don't know. There's just something that's too rapid. There's a long mind. Or something. He wasn't present for me. It's just something was just off.
It seems most people are very consistent in their observations of Sheriff Mickey Stines before the shooting. He seemed off. He didn't seem like himself. They know the sheriff. They know the way he normally acts, and he wasn't acting that way. Now, there was a moment in those 13 minutes that I want to zoom in on right now, and it's when he makes his first call. And as we looked at it and zoomed in, we realized this was actually a video chat. 3 minutes and 45 seconds before the shooting, it begins. And he calls someone, and in looking at the video, you can see that there is someone else's face on the other side. It's not the sheriff looking at himself. There's actually someone on this either FaceTime or video chat. And it lasts about 20 seconds or so. But again, 3 minutes before the shooting, he is engaging in a video chat with someone, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Who was he talking to? That person's going to know what he was saying. And again, this is just minutes before all this is happening. Is what he's saying making sense? How important is all of this? Helping us with our investigation, Elizabeth Jones, and also joining us right now, trial attorney and author Jeffrey B. Simon. Let me ask you, Elizabeth, in that it looks like it's, a video chat or a FaceTime call, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. There's someone on that other side. And it seems like they're having a quick conversation. Do we know who it is?
We do. So that's his aunt. That is the aunt who he had stayed with. I think he just stayed there the night before the shooting, but that was his aunt.
Okay, so Jeffrey, let's take this now and put it into a courtroom. How important is that conversation? How important is the testimony and observations of the aunt, who seems to be the last person to see the sheriff or speak to the sheriff before he shoots and kills the judge?
Depends on whether you are the prosecution or the defense. He is trying to argue that he is not guilty of murder because he was in a diminished mental state, extreme emotional disturbance, or some form of insanity where he didn't understand the nature of his actions. If you're the prosecution, it's not terribly important to you to prove your case, to know who was on the other side of that video chat, because you have video of him killing a man by shooting him multiple times in a manner that looks very cold and very calculated, slowly standing up, removing painstakingly the gun from the holster, pointing the gun at him, shooting him, then circling around the desk to shoot him more times, obviously to make sure he's dead. And so to the extent a picture paints 1,000 words, I think that overall video will prove to be more important probably than who he is talking to by video chat.
And how about the observations for the defense, who is trying to establish his state of mind? This is an aunt, and as Elizabeth told us, this is the aunt whose home he stayed at the night before and would have observed what his demeanor was like at that moment. And obviously she knows the way he normally is.
That's right. And the thesis, I think we understand from the outside looking in, is that, from the defense standpoint, is that he believed that the judge was involved in some sort of plot to kidnap his daughter and his wife, and or that the judge was in an inappropriate relationship with his teenage daughter. And maybe the defense will be able to support that thesis through the testimony of the aunt, and that somehow the video chat in the judge's chamber is corroborative of that was his state of mind, irrespective of whether it was an accurate assessment or a delusional one.
Jeffrey B. Simon, great to have you on the program. Thanks so much. When we come back, after the FaceTime call, he makes a call to his daughter. Why is the sheriff calling his daughter? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the shooting and killing of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins by the local sheriff, Mickey Stines. The video in this case is extensive and tells almost the entire story of what happened the day Judge Mullins was killed. Here's the story. On the morning of September 19th, 2024, the Letcher County Courthouse in Kentucky was business as usual until Sheriff Mickey Stines shattered the calm with a single unthinkable act. Just hours after having lunch with District Judge Kevin Mullins, Stines walked into the judge's chambers, ushered people out, shut the door, and opened fire after 13 minutes of sitting and talking with the judge. Mullins was shot multiple times, collapsing behind his desk. Courthouse staff fled in horror as gunfire echoed through the halls. Moments later, body cam footage captured a trembling Stines surrendering and pleading, "Don't kill me." The motive remains murky, but sources point to courthouse tensions, a civil deposition Stines had just given, and a fear that his family was in danger. The shocking betrayal rocked the tight-knit community and left behind a haunting question. What pushed a man sworn to protect the law to execute a judge in his own chambers in front of a camera? We've been trying to peel back the layers of this story now for months, and I think we're getting closer. I mentioned there a murky motive. And again, that's what this case is all about. Like, what is driving him to do this on camera? Like, there's a surveillance camera there recording all of this, everything that is happening. He's not trying to hide it, and then surrenders himself immediately afterwards. Well, at one of the initial hearings in the case, Detective Clayton Stamper from the Kentucky State Police testified about some of the things that the sheriff said afterwards, after he surrendered himself. Take a listen.
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
And we saw that in the 13-minute video where he makes a call from his phone, then gets the judge to hand him his phone, and then he makes another call, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why is the sheriff calling his daughter? Again, this is just moments before the shooting. Why? Here to help answer that question, Elizabeth Jones. Also joining us, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, author, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Great to have you both here. Let's roll the video so we can take a look at this moment because it's significant. This is after the FaceTime. Now he's got his phone first and tries to call his daughter. Then he gets the phone from the judge, and the judge just hands him his phone, and then he opens it up. He's got to get, I guess, the code to open it up. He apparently does that, or is attempting to do that. And now has to call his daughter, and I guess he's got her number in his phone. So like all of us, we don't have anyone's phone number memorized anymore because we just press one button. So he's copying the number and now calling his daughter. As we continue to watch this, Elizabeth, we don't believe that he made contact, do we? Because he does hold the phone up to his ear. Do we know if he made contact?
I don't know if he made contact with his daughter or not. The only one that I know that he talked to was his aunt. But, you know, watching this video, it looks like he's talking to somebody unless he's talking to the judge.
Right, right. So in light of everything that we're learning here, the concern about the kidnapping, and then this is just moments before the shooting, Dr. Carol Lieberman, why do you believe he would be calling his daughter from his phone and then from the judge's phone?
Well, you know, first of all, nobody really wants to say because you don't want to say something bad about the dead, and you don't want to. The judge could have been doing something inappropriate with the sheriff's daughter. But in that video that you played, if you go on a little further, the attorney who was asking the question said, do you intend to obtain records from the daughter's cell phone? And Clayton said, possibly, yes. And then the attorney said, could, and he said, could be? He said, did you intend to, or did you just respond to my question? So in other words, and so then Clayton says, should be on the judge's phone too. She's statements of what occurred during those conversations. So it's interesting that an investigator for this case wasn't planning necessarily to look at the daughter's phone or to investigate what those calls were all about. So there's some mystery about that. In addition to that, what else could he? So, you know, he could be calling his daughter to find out, to ask her about if there's anything that happened with the judge. You know, clearly what set him off was his deposition, because he was being sued because one of his deputies was involved in a sextortion plot where where the events were happening in the judge's office. So, and he had a panic attack during the deposition, and it was after that he wasn't sleeping, and so he went into this panic, and also was worried about whether his wife and daughter were going to be kidnapped. I mean, there were a lot of things going on. One thing I can tell you for sure, I watched 2 hours of the sheriff from the time that he was brought into the hallway to the time that he arrived at the jail. And I can tell you that he was not faking it, that he was very much paranoid, that he was very much terrified that they were going to kill him.
Let's take a look at a piece of that. We've got some of the video of Sheriff Stines. Again, this is very close in time to the shooting, but it's afterwards.
If I can see my daughter in person here.
Before you leave. Is that what you want?
At the jail.
At the jail?
Yep. At the jail, through the screen, on the phone, I want to see my daughter in person. And then after that, I'll tell you everything at that jail.
Well,
in front of cameras. Video recording.
Where's your daughter at? Where's your daughter? How do we track her down? Where's she at?
She was at LCC earlier. She was at LCC. I talked to her.
So now, Mickey, I want to kind of, for your daughter, let's talk about this. For your daughter, okay? If she finds out that her dad is being arrested for shooting the judge, and she's in high school. I didn't know how old she was, so I didn't know. So she's in high school. What is she, a senior? That's going to be hard.
She will want to see me. She will want. Now, come on, guys, be fair to me now.
I am being.
Elizabeth, interesting. Every time I listen to this, I hear something else. He's referencing where his daughter was, but he also said, I spoke to her.
Yeah.
Do we know?
There were some rumors right after the shooting that he had went up to the high school to see her. And we didn't know if he had actually gotten to see her or not. But we hear it out of his own mouth. He obviously did talk to her.
And Dr. Carol Lieberman, when we get to a trial here, what it may ultimately be about is, and it will be about his state of mind, but whether or not he believes in his mind that his wife and daughter are in danger because of the judge.
Yes, and because people he might have had to say or thinks that he will have to say at the depositions, things that people in the courthouse, including the judge, wouldn't want him to say. So that's why I think he thinks that he's being threatened.
And what have we learned, Elizabeth, about his daughter and her state of, she's young, right? She was in high school at the time. I feel so bad for this family. But, they're in the middle of all of this. It seems that, what's motivating the sheriff is something about his family. What was the status of the family? And it appears in court that they're obviously supporting him and stand behind him in all of this.
Well, some people are not going to like what I have to say, but Mickey, from what I've found out, Mickey's image was really important to him. A lot of people saw him as a family man, just salt of the earth. But I ended up finding out that he had an affair with a lady for about 7 or 8 years. And I've spoken with several other people that said that Mickey was really good about making people feel sorry for him. He could do the poor, poor, pitiful me thing really well. And I don't think he was as much of a family man as a lot of us wanted to believe.
That's interesting, people coming forward and telling you that. Obviously, Court TV, we have not independently verified any of that, but that could play a huge role if people are coming forward and saying things like that when it comes to the state of mind of the sheriff himself. And Dr. Carol Lieberman, I just want to follow up one more time, your observations of the sheriff, which are so important here. In the immediate aftermath of all of this, you are seeing someone who is legitimately in an altered state of paranoia.
Yes. I mean, for as long as I was watching it, I watched the whole video, and it was a little over 2 hours. And for the whole length of the time, there was not one time when it seemed like this was inauthentic. And in so many different ways. He didn't want to go into the room. They wanted to interrogate him in the room near where he was sitting. He wouldn't go into the room because he thought he'd be killed they would kill him if he went into that room. Similarly, he was asking about the body cameras. I hope you have your body cameras on, because he wanted to make sure, he was worried they would kill him there. But if they had their body cameras on, he'd be a little safer, perhaps, he thought. all the way to the jail. He was saying the same thing. I know you're going to kill me. I know. And it wasn't like you're going to kill me because you know I killed the sheriff. I mean, the judge. And so I'm going to get a death sentence. It wasn't that. It was that they were going to be killing him for some other reason, perhaps related to the deposition, perhaps something else. And, you know, he and his wife had a fight the night before he killed the judge, or allegedly, or when we saw it. The night before he killed the judge, he had a fight with his wife, which is presumably why he was with. A
lot of moving parts to all this. By the way, Dr. Carol Lieberman, you better stand by the phone. You may be getting a call from the defense team tonight after that analysis, and you may be flying to Kentucky to testify. Thank you so much, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Elizabeth Jones is going to stick with us. Still to come. Who are the other people in the judge's chambers?
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins this August on Court TV.
And I think there was a lot of interest by those people who populated the judges' chambers, for whatever reason, about what Mickey might say in those depositions.
And there you hear Mickey Stines' attorney on this program talking about the people inside the chambers. And again, these are witnesses. Let's take a look at the video again, because when the sheriff first gets there, right, he's there, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 other people plus the judge in the chambers, and then you can see with his arm sort of waves him out, but then closes the door. That's kind of strange, but I guess whatever he's saying, maybe he doesn't want the people outside to hear him. I don't know. But then everyone gets up pretty quickly, and then they all exit the chambers and leave the judge alone with the sheriff. And we've shown you the next 13 minutes that lead up to the shooting. So this brings us to the next question in our investigation. Who are the other people in the judge's chambers? I mean, these are important people. These are folks who are witnesses to the final moments of Judge Mullins' life. Still here helping us with our investigation is Elizabeth Jones, and joining us, Ann Bremner, trial attorney, fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers. Great to see you, Ann.
Great to see you, Vinny.
The 3 of the people we have interviews with, police interviews, I want to play short clips from 3 of the people that were inside the chambers.
Can I get your name and address?
Christy.
With a K or C?
K-R-I-S-T.
What's your last name, Christy? You work here at the courthouse?
I'm pre-trial. I am case navigator with pre-trial service.
So you're on pre-trial?
First and foremost is judge is my best friend.
Right now?
Judge is my best friend.
Let me get your name and address and get all that number for you. Tim, you know, from what I can tell, man, every time I come up here, you've been in the judge's office. Y'all must be pretty tight. Do you work for the judge, or what's your role?
I work for an comprehensive care center. I'm the director of outreach and help get people in treatment and how to introduce the judge.
How are you?
He's my bed. My dad thought my dad was he's my friend.
I understand. What's your name?
My name is Paige Hall.
What is your, I guess, affiliation with being at the courthouse?
I work for Goodwill Industries of Kentucky, and I do a jail program for reentry. Okay. Kevin and Christy are the ones that give me people that are good candidates for my program.
Well, first, it seems like they're all very, very close to the judge, but they all seem to be in this in the intervention and the drug rehabilitation business. Let me ask you, Elizabeth, what is their? Are they all connected in some way? And there was a 4th person in there. Who was that? And does he have any sort of connection to these drug programs as well?
Yes, sir, Vinny. I'm so glad that you got that video. Okay, so the fourth guy that was in there was Michael Clark. He is the community liaison from ARC. And ARC is a big rehab that the FBI announced a Medicaid fraud investigation into last year. ARC, whenever all the funding got sent into Eastern Kentucky for the substance abuse problems, we really started seeing a ton of change in attitude towards medically assisted treatment for a lot of these people. The other fella that we just saw, his name, Mr. Ison, the guy that was sitting down there in the chair, now he is from another rehab. I have been very critical of all of the waste, fraud, and abuse that has just permeated these rehabs since all this funding came in here. And the courtroom, Judge Mullins was the state of Kentucky's he's the one who started the pilot program for the Senate 90 bill, and it was to try and send people to treatment instead of keeping them in jail. But what it ended up being is just this never-ending cycle of money. You see that they go into
money, and there is some controversy surrounding some of it. Before we run out of time, Ann Bremner, those are the folks who were there. Obviously, they're important witnesses. At trial, will any more of what they may be involved in their connection to the judge be relevant at this trial?
Oh, that's a great question, Vinny. I don't know so far. It really could be, especially what we've just heard about potential fraud and some other issues. I mean, they were all in there. They also could be relevant as to the sheriff's state of mind. And did he tell them all to get out, or did he just say, can I have a minute alone, with the judge? We don't, they're great witnesses that way too, in terms of an insanity or mental defense, how he was acting at the time. But I think we're going to hear from them. They're the only living witnesses. There they are, right there on video.
Yeah, and I
hear about them.
And I wonder, Ann, if they're going to play into if this is mental defect defense, right, play into the delusion that all these people are somehow involved in something that he believes in his mind that put his family in danger.
Exactly. That's brilliant, Vinny. I think that's exactly right. They got to get out.
And it would be connected perhaps to the controversy of the deposition, because he's being deposed about some controversy with the program as well. I mean, maybe in his mind it all comes together, and maybe in reality there is some connection as well.
That's excellent. It's a great defense. His lawyer seems pretty confident about it, doesn't he? That's what the kind of defense they're going to have. I mean, big time. So I think that he wants you on his team, probably.
Well, we'll be covering it for sure. Ann Bremner, great to see you. Thank you so much. Elizabeth Jones, host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Always appreciate your insight, being an insider there. Thank you so much. Sheriff Mickey Stines seemed to believe his family was in danger. The first question I have about this is, was there any real danger, or was this just the sheriff's delusional thinking, or could it be a combination of the two? Actual danger, but exaggerated and distorted in the mind of a man who is having a mental breakdown. Well, it looks like that may very well be the question that the 12 jurors from Kentucky will have before them when this case goes to trial. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.